Hello, this is Richie from the Metal Cell podcast. I'm delighted to welcome Greg and Cathal of Parhelia. How are we, lads?
All good, man. Thank you.
Good, yeah.
And Howard, my wingman for the night as well. How are you, Howard?
How are you doing, Richie? Good to see you.
It's like 2 podcasts in a row now.
This is it.
Gonna have to start charging a fee.
It's coming. It's in the post.
I'd gladly take a free T-shirt anytime.
Oh, Richie, I have a line of free T-shirts there, and then the free artwork. I've a whole merch table here for you.
Jesus Christ!
Just a matter of catching in person at some stage, you know.
Yeah, catching people in person. Actually, caught up with Colin Bulger today. I don't know. Do you know of him, lads? He's with Zahora, and he's a brilliant artist.
Know the band all right, but don't know them individually.
The Bulga design as well. He does artwork for a lot of bands, a lot of post work. Class guy, lovely fella. He's a band called Spirit Merchant as well, which is a newer version than Zora. But he's been on the scene quite some time.
Yeah,
very good guy.
Yeah. So if you need any, because I know you're well into your art, and covers of your albums as well are pretty impressive. So we can get into that in a minute. But at the moment, you are celebrating the release of your new album, Celestial Horizons, which came out. Jesus, the months are flying. When did that come out, lads? February, was it?
February, yeah. We did it digitally in February, then April CD and vinyl then in June.
Okay.
And good timing with everything by the sounds of it, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, the plans for a bunch of heroes, I have to say. Yeah, the plan delivered on time, almost to the date for each item, which is a rarity in normal times. So can't recommend them enough if you're getting anything done in the future.
Brilliant, because you know yourself when you come out of a studio and you're all excited about what you've done. And 4 months past, 5 months past, you're waiting on merch, or waiting on things to be pressed. And you did initially enthusiasm.
That's been our experience every time. So to get this on time this time was pretty sweet.
That was
nice to hear that happens.
Monotype pressing. Was it in Krakow? Is it?
Yeah, they're in Poland. Yeah.
How'd you come across them? Have you worked with them before?
Yeah, I've got stuff done with them before. I think I played some gigs in Poland once, and the guy who had started Monotype was performing at the gig as well. So I got to know the name. They're considered expensive, I guess, but the quality is just like second to none, you know, so well worth it.
Mm. And was there much of a waiting period between the time you put in the order and when you actually got them?
No, I think they do CDs in, I think, 3 weeks, and that was like pretty much on time. The vinyl was something between 25 to 40 days, and it might have been 41 days or something, but as Greg said, in these times, was pretty impressive, you know.
Mm.
Are you going down that route, Howard, with Partholon?
Oh yeah, for sure. We have the first release is actually coming out on vinyl next week, I would imagine. We have the order in 6 weeks now at this point. We had the test pressings 3 weeks ago. Signed off on all the artwork and all that. So yeah, hopefully it'll happen next week.
Wow, class. Who did you go with?
I think it's important. We went with a Dutch company. They were a little bit more expensive than the others, but they were very, very hands-on, I guess, with the artwork. So we were doing a few Zoom calls and things like that just to iron stuff out, which I love, because there's nothing worse than sending an email and not getting a response for 4 or 5 days, you know. Whereas you can just talk it out and have everything laid out. Things just move a bit quicker. But yeah, again, with the lockdown, that's where it pushed us into terms of doing something, was basically bringing out what we had on vinyl, you know.
Yeah,
that's about as much as we could muster in the circumstances.
And how many pressings did Parhelia need, lads? How did you estimate?
I think we just based it on what we did before, you know, what we've done in the past, and then the fact that we're not going to be touring, so we kind of chopped it in half. So there's just 100 vinyl and there's 200 CDs. So
yeah, I want to give a shout out to Pat O'Regan as well, who taught me about G, and he is some man for collecting vinyl. The stuff he has.
He is. He's costing me money every week. He sends me a recommendation, but he's recommended some damn fine music, so that's okay.
Yeah, I suppose the kind of music you play, And again, it wouldn't be okay. Try and describe it for people. Be the best way, first of all, than me trying to describe it for you. Like what?
Do you want to go, Cathal, or will
What genre do you want to?
I think it falls between genres, and I think that's why we've met a little bit of success with it, because it's a little bit metal, it's a little bit prog, it's a little bit post, but it's probably none of the above as well. I think Cathal used the word refined earlier on, and I'd agree with that. Like, our songs are shorter, I suppose, and more direct than a lot of what you would find in any of those genres that I've just mentioned. So I think we found a little bit of a niche there, and I think that's why we're still making albums.
Yeah. And of course, the audience that listen to you would be big into their vinyl more so. A lot of them like their collections of vinyl, especially kind of post metal.
Yeah, Pat just put the thing up on the site there the other week, and I think, like, the orders just started rolling in that day, so it doesn't, I think people are always looking for something new, especially in the post genre. If you go onto those forums, it doesn't take much in some ways. If you put up the artwork and a link to a track, that's all it takes. I think some of the other genres, it might be a little bit tougher to, we've played metal before. Carl's played metal. I've done it as well. It's a little bit tougher. There's a little bit more saturation there, so you have to stick out that little bit more. Be a little bit more aggressive in your with your sales pitches, I suppose.
Yeah, and of course you're doing it all independent and have been doing it for years.
Yeah, I've been doing it for Jesus. It's 15 years now. So we've always done it independently, except for the odd release where somebody's proposed something to us. We've done a tape before or something like that. If something's appealing to us and somebody else can do it for us, that we're happy enough to do it that way. Then,
yeah.
15 years is such a long time. Just the same lads are saying they're at it for 15 years. That must be really, really tough. Because I know myself, the longest I've ever kept a band together would be 10 years. I mean, that must take some sort of determination. That must. Yeah,
it's not easy, and you say 15 years, but it wasn't 15 consecutive years. We went hard at it when we were younger. We went really hard at it, gigging as much as we could, gigging abroad, trying to release things quickly in succession. Being really aggressive with trying to get interviews and that type of thing. But yeah, you can only keep that up for so long. I don't know why me and Cathal have never given up on it, but we're still here for some reason. So, there was a bit of a break at some stage, some of the guys left the band, or, people grow apart and things like that. So it's me and Cathal now, but we found a way to make it work again.
Cathal, just want to ask you there, what benefits do you think a record label would have brought to you over those years, if you had one? Is it something you think about much?
Not really. I guess the only thing a record company brings is maybe like a PR department. You don't have to use your own money. There's more visibility, I guess, but the fact that that's not why I do it means that I don't need to worry about those things. It's I think there's a lot, we use our own money and we have to make sacrifices in order to release a CD, release a vinyl, and that's another thing that's maybe missing today, is that bands aren't prepared to make sacrifices. You see so many bands with Kickstarters and GoFundMe, and they don't seem to have the belief or something in their own music to put their own money into it. They want other people's money in order to further it, so
and I think the issue with that is with record labels and so on, they can shape a band's sound towards a certain direction. I think when you have your own control over things, it definitely becomes a more authentic product at the end of it all. You're not trying to please some guy on the phone,
Plus, it is. Yes, go ahead, Carl.
No, you go ahead there.
No, I was just going to say, just even the notion, you brought up the fact that, that a record label can, provide financial assistance and things like that. But, that even is becoming a rarity now. If you look at bands like Napalm Death back in 2003 or 2002, before they put out enemy of the music business. They were aggrieved with earache. They were giving them £400 sterling as a marketing budget. So that's the way it's gone. I'd imagine it's even worse now. So it begs the question: what's the point?
Yeah. I think more or less in Ireland, it's probably one of the biggest independent scenes in Europe, I'd say, per person, or per band, I would say,
Yeah.
Jeez.
There's also what I wanted to say about record companies as well is even small underground record companies, there's an issue with like ownership. So the way a lot of labels work now is that they'll sign a band, but the band will pay for their own recording. Yet when they deliver the finished product, the label owns the rights to it. I've been offered, Wreck-It Hesperus were offered a contract like that years ago, where we would pay for the recording, but when we sent the guy the finished thing, he owned the rights. And you're kind of like, but if I'm paying for it, why do you own it? It's
Jesus.
There's
that's the way it is.
Ethical issues, and
it fucking sucks. Like, it's just so soul destroying when that's sort of the pinnacle of get an offer you think is the greatest thing ever. Then you look at it in detail and you think, fuck this.
Like, it was a different. Was it very different a scene, lads, when you were starting out compared to now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult question in some ways, because we were really active, when we started. So you're not only in touch with bands, online or whatever, and back when we were swapping CDs or whatever, you had all that going on, but like you were actually playing. So it seemed really exciting at the time. Like, I don't know if you remember, but Terrorizer ran a feature around 2006, 2007, and there was a ton of great bands featured in it. The standard was really high. I still think it's high now, but the funny thing is, it's the same people doing it. It's the same. Like, I don't see a younger generation coming through and doing it now. That's the only thing that's different for me. There's still some good bands there.
We have a lot of younger bands coming through down on Cork. To be fair, the scene is pretty good.
You've got God Alone down there, who seem to be leaving Certers. They're really good as well. But I think they're the exception rather than the rule. Absolutely. But if you look at a lot of, like, even the guys in Malthusian, they were around the block a few times. You had Apostate, Viaticum. They were made up of guys from Morphosis, Nephridium, other bands like it tends to get recycled now. Yeah. Which is, again, like, a lot of the bands are pretty cool. But yeah, that's the only thing I'd worry about is younger lads picking up the guitar. God Alone are an exception in terms of youth, I think. I don't know if you guys would agree now. Maybe your finger is more on the pulse than mine.
It's a little bit different down this direction, I think, in the last maybe 4 or 5 years. We're definitely seeing sort of a mini scene pop out of nowhere with a lot of younger people involved. By younger, I mean
that's good,
under the age of 24 or 25. God Alone would be spearheading that. But it's definitely been a shift, right, in the last 5 or 6 years. But there's a big gap between that then again. So you're looking at kids up to the age of 24, and then the next stage up is 40 years of age,
You're spot on.
Yeah, weird one.
Yeah.
But when were you out? Were you out in 2006 with Five Will Die? Or when did you...
Oh, it'd be 2005 was our first gig, 2005. I would have been playing, my first gig was 1986 in the Phoenix.
Okay.
That long ago, it's fucking 15, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was in bands all the way through to that, but the first time, Five Will Die would have been the first concentrated effort of a long run of things. I like the lads, we did the same thing. We hit it hard in the early days,
Howard, you look too young to have played a gig in 1996.
I'm not as fucking young as I look. I'm 40 next year.
Oh, you're 40. We're the same age, dude.
Next year. I'm holding on to my 30s by a fucking tin
Well, listen, that just proves my point. That proves everything I just said.
And I'm 50 in January. Fuck ye.
Well, you look well in it, dude.
Jesus Christ. I was hoping that he kind of come up some bit, but like, that's what I'm saying though. Like, it's just the three of you have been around that scene from 2006 onwards, and playing. Did you get down to Cork much at that stage, lads? What was the kind of touring cycle for you around that time, if you cast your minds back? Because First Light came out in 2006, yeah?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we played Cork that year. We were down as well with God as an Astronaut. We were down with Anathema. So we were down a bit.
Oh, that was Cypress Avenue, wasn't it?
That was Cypress Avenue, yeah.
Yeah, I was at that show. It was a great show.
Yeah, the lads are really cool. I have to say they were one of the nicest touring bands, let's say, or signed bands that we played with. The two boys, the two brothers, Thorsten and Niels, are two cool guys, and Lloyd as well. Like, they're really respectful, really nice, really helpful.
Yeah.
Couldn't say enough good things about them.
Cast your minds back then. What was your kind of thought process when you released First Light? Because he came from, is it Revile? Was that your band before that?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe just talk us through Revile and how he changed the name into Parhelia. We'll say, just for people that don't know.
Do you want to take that call, or?
Yeah, Cathal, come on, step forward, man.
How diplomatic do I have to be?
You don't have to be.
That was my problem.
Not at all.
I don't know if I could have said anything
This isn't
nice.
that type of show, man.
Yeah. He's given me the torch so I can fucking scorch myself with it.
Well, look, we'll both take a burn. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Yeah, I guess with Revile, we sort of ran the course with the vocalist we had. So when that came to a head, we searched for a new vocalist. We went through 30 people, whatever, just couldn't find what we were looking for, whatever. So in the meantime, we had 10 or 12 songs written. So we decided, actually the last gig we had done with the vocalist, he ended up leaving the stage after 3 songs. So we just ended up finishing that gig by playing all this new stuff we had, just instrumental. So then after searching for a vocalist, we played another gig as Revile, just an instrumental gig, just to kind of keep out there and keep doing stuff, and kind of really enjoyed that gig. So then we decided maybe we'll just keep on that path where we would so I don't know, I don't think any of those songs survived into Parhelia, but yeah, it's just, we decided we'd keep going instrumental, and
Very diplomatic.
yeah.
Well, one of the great things about I was listening to the couple of tracks that Richie sent me last night, and it takes a lot to get into instrumental bands and things like that. But what was immediately apparent from you guys was that there was an imagery immediately. It wasn't lacking in needing lyrics to describe what was going on. I mean, it seems like a very kind of celestial outlook, and you have this sort of Lovecraftian horror vibe going through the whole thing as well, which I fucking loved. But do you miss having a vocalist? Is it something that you would think about doing down the line, or is this just a thing of we're going to stay instrumental and stick to the plan?
Every once in a while we think about, putting a vocal over a track. But then we don't do it. We are fairly comfortable doing what we do, and there's so many bands do it with a vocalist and things like that. So, I think we're happy. I think I'd be afraid of ruining it nearly. I did have a chap send me a vocal take years ago after we did First Light. He took one of the tracks. I don't know if you know of a guy called James Doran, Jimmy Trigger.
Oh, Jimmy Trigger,
yeah. Jimmy's
he's in LA now or something, isn't he? Yeah.
He's in LA. He's living the life. He's living next door to Burton C. Bell, would you believe?
Oh, stop.
I believe it, yeah.
No, he's a cool guy. But back in 2006, he sent me a take with his vocals on it, and it was superb. It was brilliant. But I just kept it, and that was that. Never used it. I remind him of it every once in a while. It is really good, but I think we have a vision for the band, and we're sticking to it.
That's fair enough. You went to Norway on that. Was that when the EP was released?
Absolute disaster.
Okay, tell us more. Jesus. Asking the right questions here.
Dude,
like the boys are fucking squirming already, and we're only 10 minutes into it.
No,
how diplomatic do you want them to be? Yeah?
Jesus, after your last answer, you're gone way over the top.
Yeah, no. If you were to ask me about the worst gigs that we ever played, they were probably over there, and it was for reasons out of control. We were just treated really badly.
That was at festival, yeah.
Yeah, the festival was shocking.
Yeah,
You see, we had the festival built up as being a really big thing. It started off okay because we did a TV appearance, that was cool. We did an acoustic gig somewhere, that was cool. But then, yeah, just you would have had to be in there. The treatment was just shocking, and we were literally bundled onto the stage, zero sound check, nothing, and sounded awful, couldn't hear each other, and this was supporting bands like Trail of Tears, and who else was on the bill?
Inchy, is it?
Was
that
it
the crowd? But did you do a swap gig?
Inchy
I have the poster here.
Ill Disposed.
Ill Disposed were there. Yeah. We felt it was a chance to do something, and I think in the end we felt like we made a show of ourselves. Well, I did anyway.
My favorite part of that was one of those headline bands spent 2.5 hours just pricking around on a sound check. That's why then we were bundled onto the stage without a sound check. And I remember coming off stage being really angry because the sound was so shit. And the vocalist from the band who had pricked around for 2.5 hours said "Oh, I hope the sound is good for us."
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And was that probably... you wouldn't hear many swap gigs back in 2006, Howard, would you? Or would you have swapped gigs back then?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe not as far as abroad as Norway and so on, but certainly a couple of bands over from Germany, a lot of bands from the UK, an awful lot of bands from the UK. Where you could make it work. It was generally when bands from the mainland would have gone on tour in the UK, you tried to tempt them over for a date or two, And, at the level of bands we were working with at the time, it was always a gig swap as part of the deal,
Yeah.
I think it's been going on since God was a boy,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a kind of given for the UK acts, but it's more interesting to hear European acts doing it. I know 10 Ton Slug went over to Germany as well, which is great.
Yeah, we had a band from Hawaii over in the cruise one time.
Really?
Forget the name off the top of my head, but that was part of a gig swap as well. But obviously, we never went back to fucking Hawaii.
One-way swap.
It's a bit ambitious on our part, but they made it over here.
And who produced the first EP? Was it Neil Calderwood? Or when did you start working with Neil?
Yeah, Neil's done around 2004. We did the last Revile EP with Neil, and we've worked with him ever since. I don't think we'd go to anybody else. I think Cathal shares my enthusiasm for Neil. He's a musician himself, so I think that's what we were always missing from anything we'd done previously. And I think when you're doing something like Parhelia, you need everything balanced. You need that separation of instruments. You need the clarity, and Neil can just give that to us. So I don't think that's the one part of our process that's not really up for debate, I think.
Yeah, I think also with Neil, he's one of the few studio owners that I've met that actually takes pride in what he sends out of his studio. I've been to a lot of places, done demos in places, and they just want your money. They don't care what they send you home with. So you go home. They know the trick where when you listen back in the studio, they turn up the studio monitors really loud, so it sounds amazing. And then you get home and you put it on your stereo, and it's just terrible stuff, It's
wow. Yeah. Would you agree with that, Howard?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you go into a studio, you're always taking a risk if you don't know who you're dealing with.
For sure.
And it's big money, big risks. But when you find someone that you can work with, and you're going to get what you want, and you're going to get a decent recording, if you find somebody, stick with them.
Yeah, and how did you come across Neil? Was it through another one of his, was it through his band, or did he just branch out on his own, or what happened?
Yeah, he played with Shearer. I don't know if you know those guys. And I think after their second album, the record label folded, and some of them wanted to push on with it, but Neil wanted to cut his losses, so he started producing bands. And we'd heard a band that we really liked from Belfast. We heard Involution's CD. I think it was their second one. and it really, like, they were a bunch of young fellas at the time. We couldn't get over the quality of the recording. So, you know, when we'd heard that, there was no question we were going up there next.
Okay, cool. We'll listen to one track then and give people an idea of his production values. It's A Lonesome Journey, and it's off the new album, I suppose. Yeah, how many songs are on the album, actually, lads? Is it
8?
Yeah. So this is, as I said, Lonesome Journey. Try it now. Okay. Have you got it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. Cool, lads. Excellent. The songs, are they more, their songs seem as much about the journey as is the final destination of them. You know, it's definitely conjures up a lot of atmosphere, as Howard was saying as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, we try, like obviously as an instrumental band, I don't know if you guys listen to a lot of that stuff, but, you know, I think the problem with a lot of it now is, you know, there's a lot of aimless drifting or meandering in a lot of it now. Try to stay away from that. Try to keep it a little bit more direct and, you know, keep the atmosphere there, keep a little bit of drive there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has a refreshing running time. It really does for that style of music.
Yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of the songs are, they're well, not short, but they're short enough,
Yeah, because a lot of the post metal tends to kind of drag on for 8 or 9 minutes as well, and you can kind of get lost
Yeah.
sometimes in it. I find
Yeah,
your
it's fine.
stuff
I think sometimes it's fine at a gig. Sometimes, sometimes it works, but sometimes when you buy the album and you listen to the record at home, it's it can be painful sometimes.
So I just want to bring you back then, because I think it's only fair for fans of the band and just people that don't know you as well, that we just kind of bring you through the albums that you've done, if you don't mind. Yeah, Oceans Apart.
Yep.
Maybe talk about that then for a bit.
Yeah.
What was the thought process that went into that compared to the debut EP? We'll say debut album. Can you hear me? Okay.
I guess. Yeah. Sorry. I guess with that one, if like First Light was a bit more kind of still maybe closer to what we were doing with Revile, so kind of fairly straightforward or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at that stage, we were like rehearsing like every week, without fail, doing like 5 hours. So by the time we got to Oceans Apart, I think that one's where it got a bit more progressive.
Okay.
I only listened to it recently and was kind of surprised with like a couple of the songs. Like, as I said to Greg, I don't know where they came from. They're just like just
yeah. I think we'd gotten a lot better at it and more confident with it, and we'd done a lot of gigs, and I think like this, certainly the song lengths on that one, a lot longer, a lot more complicated, a bit darker as well. That was maybe closer to something like an instrumental Fate's Warning, as especially as far as the bass is concerned. I think
it
was more of a metal thing. I think
the bass is nearly singing in that one.
yeah, for sure.
And how was that received? Did you do much of a promotional campaign behind it?
Well, actually, that kind of killed us and sent us into our first hiatus, I think. Because I was only talking to Cathal about this recently. I think at that point we'd exhausted what we could do here in Ireland. We'd gotten a bit of traction. We'd sold a lot of CDs. First Light did really well for us.
Mm-hmm.
We probably should have jumped ship, and instead we were mining the same territory here.
Okay.
And we were playing to less people, and we were getting pissed off with each other as well. So, that was the first time we took a hiatus. Then we just decided to give each other a little bit of space and see if we were still interested then after a number of months.
There was a real shift in things at that time as well, I think, with the recession hitting.
That's right, yeah, you were close to all that sort of stuff. And
it was harder to get abroad, it was harder to get things going.
It's harder to get things going, and then a lot of us were of peer age, I'd say, and then some people are starting to look at things like, okay, I want to settle down, or want to take
life
a mortgage
happens,
and things like that. Life happens, yeah. So we actually, like, our other guitarist left at that point. He emigrated to Belgium, and I'm not so sure he's played music ever since. So that kind of stuff. We were all the same age. We were all around 26, 27 then. So
I wasn't.
That sort of stuff gets like, you weren't. So.
Yeah, sometimes you just kind of have to gather the troops around and figure out what you want to do yourselves.
Exactly.
And that was very much the case. What was your relationship with the press at that stage, lads? Was there any particular interest in it from, say, the Irish side of things, or was it again more European or English?
It's more European, American. English, UK was always very good. Found Ireland to be pretty poor, to be honest with you. Every once in a while, somebody cool like yourselves or whatever, that'll come along. I think we got a nod on Hot Press once, so like in terms of press in Ireland, it's been poor. But I would say it's the same for a lot of metal bands here. Bar the odd token article that you might get, a puff piece in the Independent or something, they're deciding to write about metal, somebody might get a mention or whatever.
It becomes almost insulting.
Metal Ireland.
It becomes almost insulting to see these things,
Exactly. Yeah. And, the sole publication at the time, online publication, Metal Ireland, I suppose, like that's no longer there as well. That was always a big help, but again, it was one of the few places that you could rely on as a metal or a rock band to get a nod.
Yeah.
Again, do you think would it been just a lack of a singer as well? Do you know, a lack of a recognizable front man? Would that be something that would have crossed your mind?
Not really. Like if you look at the guys in God as an Astronaut, like I mean, they did so well abroad before they did well here.
Yeah.
Like they're playing, and still, like if you go onto their Instagram page or whatever, not now obviously because they're not playing, but if you look at where they're playing in Moscow or in the States, they're playing to thousands of people, and
That's right, yeah.
in Ireland they play in Cypress Avenue, or they'd half fill the academy and things like that. So I don't know. I'm not so sure. I don't know if Howard would agree or Cathal. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I agree completely. I mean, yeah, 100%.
Yep. Even just have to look at, we'll say, like a band like Primordial, like undoubtedly Ireland's biggest metal export. And you see the tripe that Hot Press have, like not even a major into like cover, like you've like. They've rarely, I don't know, I maybe once seen Primordial in Hot Press, like, whereas any other European country, a band of that stature would be like gloried, but
absolutely.
So what hope do like schlubs like us have if like, and then you talk about a recognizable frontman, like, there's no more fucking recognizable frontman than fucking, Primordial,
Dude, like that you're spot on there, and I don't know if the guys, I don't know if yourselves, Richie or Howard, if you've seen Primordial back in the day when they were supporting the first couple albums, but I can testify to being there and to seeing them play, like let's say Journey's End, Slattery's, 60 people, Spirit, the Art of Flame, The Village with Crewcon supporting them, 60 people. They were doing that for years here and get nowhere. Like, it's testament to them that they stuck it out. I really think signing to Metal Blade really gave them a break that they were long overdue, I think. But still, I mean, it still looks like they're more popular outside of the country than in.
Absolutely. We saw them down, they played Winterfest a few times down in Cork. And then
Nazi Spain's in the 90s, I think it was, and
that's right,
Fermoy as well, I think at one point. But I remember the face makeup and the whole lot when they came out first. Not even a fucking clue.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was different back then, I guess. We didn't have Facebook to let you know what was happening. You just went to the venue knowing there was a band going to play, and you might get to like Primordial by accident, which is just something you don't get anymore,
Yeah, it was strange as well, because like they are of the same vintage of a few of the bands in the UK. There or thereabouts, your Paradise Lost, your Anathemas, your that type of thing. They were friends with Catatonia back in the day. They did the split with Catatonia, but their success came much later than any of those bands.
I was at Brutal Assault last year and just saw a full castle full of metalheads rocking out to Primordial, which was incredible.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. No, it's a testament to them. They stuck it out.
Yeah, and you put Primordial in front of any crowd, regardless of the size, they'll win them over. It's just
absolutely
getting them in front of those people.
Yeah, and again, it is funny to see it now, because like for a lot of the gigs that they do now here in Ireland, like you can't get a ticket for love nor money.
That's it.
So to recall those gigs from the early days where you could wander in as a 15-year-old, and
that's it, and just,
there was space
asking
galore.
who's on stage,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I remember asking the guitarist what they were tuned to at one stage, and he was able to answer me.
So you took a break, okay, and then you came back with Shifting Sands. What was the thought process with that album? You had there was Our Ship Had Sailed is the opening track, and that was that.
Yeah.
A bit of humor on that, or
maybe a bookend to the original chapter. I think we kind of had realized that, okay, we had a chance to do something, and maybe we didn't capitalize on it enough. So we regrouped, we got another guitarist, and we just went at it again as best as we could. But it actually worked out pretty well, because we did get a lot of cool gigs there. We were playing with Catatonia, Anathema, I can't remember, Oh God's an Astronaut during that time. And then the gigs that we did ourselves, they were they were the best gigs we've done in terms of crowd, like as in, you know, headlining our own shows. Now we're only playing fibbers and the likes, but like the place was pretty full for a lot of the shows that we put on the back of that one. But that's really the last time we played live. That's 10 years ago now.
And just as well, how do you decide on the song titles, considering they are instrumentals?
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. Like, even when you listen to them, they'll still conjure an image, a feeling, an atmosphere, you know. So, or something, you know, it's the same as whether you were writing lyrics or not. You might, something might trigger something in you, or you might have read something or felt something, and you know, you'll get the title out of that.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Howard?
Yeah, it's really, like I was saying, I was listening to your stuff last night. The first thing that came to mind was some sort of celestial outlook and Lovecraftian type of vibe. But is there a particular piece of literature or anything like that would help you guys go forward in terms of concept or whatnot? Does it come from literature? Does it come from movies? Does it come from all of the above?
All of the above. Life, though, for me is the big one.
Yeah.
You know, always life
absolutely,
experience for me. You know, it will be something I've felt. It will be something that I've gone through. You know, literature as well. Like, I think myself and Cathal are both big fans of Lovecraft. I read a lot of sci-fi, horror. We're into conspiracy theories. We're not tinfoil hat merchants now, but you know, do enjoy a good discussion or debate over a conspiracy theory. You know, so sometimes that I think we got one in on this one, didn't we? The Veil of Truth. That's conspiracy theory.
Veil of Truth. Yeah.
Good
old Buzz Aldrin.
Good old Buzz. Yeah.
So you guys are excited about the recent UFO developments in the Pentagon releasing videos and evidence to that?
Think we might draw a line with UFOs.
In 2011, he had a problem then trying to get a drummer. Is that right?
Yeah, that's. Do you want to take that one, Cathal? That's a bit of a saga.
You're really pushing it on him, like he's very diplomatic.
Yeah. I'm going to bounce that one back to you, Greg.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we found ourselves looking for a drummer in 2011, and just couldn't. Again, it was like looking for the vocalist. Just couldn't find the right person, and like we jammed with people, it didn't work, and then we hit on the idea of just hiring a session musician to complete it. Like we would be happy enough to just record the material and not necessarily play live. But it was really surprising the results that we got back, because we hit up some name bands for recommendations and things like that, and it seemed like the tracks that they were laying down were like a calling card or something. You know, it seemed like it was more for them rather than the song, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Like every inch of space was filled with hi-hat hits and drum rolls and fills, and then you'd ask these guys to maybe tone it down a little bit, and then they just play a 4/4. So you know, it was feast or famine stuff. You know, and we just couldn't find the right person. So for the record we did in 2013, we programmed the drums ourselves. We just got so frustrated with it that you know, we thought if we didn't record it at all, or if we didn't do it there and then do something, it would never come out. So we released the Precipice of Change on a small scale back in 2013. Did
you record some of that, as you said, at your own houses as well?
Yeah, a little bit was done at our own houses, and Cathal took care of the drums on that one. And yeah, it was a labour of love, really, and we're still proud of it. You know, I personally don't think it's our greatest effort.
No.
It's a little bit painful, because I remember the time. It wasn't a great time either. But I think it did show that we had a little bit of resolve, and you know, the drive was still there, and we still wanted to make music. So I think if we didn't make that one, we wouldn't have followed it up. You know, we wouldn't be here talking.
Yeah, you were having to program drums there, Howard, weren't you, there for your?
Oh yeah, fuck me. over the quarantine, when February happened, I have another band called the Magnapina, which is more of an alt rock outfit.
Okay.
And we had an album recorded, but it got locked down in the studio over the period of lockdown, so we couldn't get it to mix it. So we said, fuck it, we learn how to use Reaper, we'll download Easy Drummer, and we'll figure it out. We'll start by doing a cover, and we'll start by doing a few bits and pieces. But I don't play drums. I've never fucking picked up a drumstick in my life. So the drummer was sending me patterns on his electric kit. And he's trying to learn how to program into the fucking Easy Drummer. We ended up doing 8 songs altogether at the end of it. But Jesus Christ, lads, I have a new appreciation for drums. Fucking hell.
You can imagine it in 2011 then. What were you using back then?
Yeah.
For that, I used, it wasn't so much programmed as I had a sample pack of each individual drum sound. And then it was basically just using Cubase and just individually placing each hit.
You maniac.
Yeah. So
I did say painful earlier.
Painful.
I don't know if you guys have seen the Berserker documentary. Where he
I haven't seen the documentary. No.
It's so good. It's when he's making the first album, and it's basically that he's using old 1996 PCs to program in one hit, and the whole thing will crash, and he'll have to go back and start over again just for one fucking cymbal hit, you know. It's great to watch. You get it immediately. That frustration of trying to fucking figure things out.
I read a nice article there in relation to that album. It says the music has an introverted widescreen effect, as if they want to make the biggest sound in the world but are a bit shy about it. And this is quite
I remember that. Yeah,
quite an endearing quality. You know, when you read stuff like that, again, is it close to the truth?
Yeah, I think with that record, maybe, you know, I think that maybe is a little bit by accident. That was the sound of it in the end, you know, because I think the drums in the end, even though, you know, Cathal had worked them out and all the rest of it, they were a bit flat. You know, they lacked the natural ebb and flow of a real player playing live in a room, you know. So parts that should have gotten a little bit louder or a bit heavier, you know, just kind of fell each time. Like, so even though that particular critic enjoyed it, I think that was by accident rather than design now. So I take the compliment, but yeah.
And again, I think he nailed it with this new album. You got Ben Wanderers in.
Yeah, got Ben in after people recommended him for years. I knew well of him, you know, seen Shardborn a couple of times, and I know he played with Slave Zero on a record, and he did a few gigs with him, and I seen him play live, and a few people had said to me that we should check him out, and I just thought he was too much of a metal drummer. Yes, incredibly capable and talented and all the rest of it, but I didn't think he would gel with us. But I looked into it a little bit more a couple of years ago and seen that he'd done a wide range of things. He was on tour with a folk band, he'd done some alt rock, he'd done everything. So we hit him up, and luckily it really worked first time. Like, I mean, most of what you hear there, the bulk of what you hear on the record was what he came up with first time, maybe just a few adjustments.
Yeah, he's something really special, Ben. He's an incredible musician.
Yeah.
I remember playing a gig with him years ago, and our drummer was left-handed, and Shardborn ran, I think it was either directly before us or directly after us, can't remember which. But rather than change the kit around, he said, yeah, fuck, I'll have a go off it left-handed to see what happens.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No bother to him, you know?
Yeah.
And how did that work? Did you send him the music first, and had he any input himself into it? Did he suggest changes with some of the songs, or he just played what she gave him?
No, we sent him demos. Sometimes we'd send him a demo drum track, but we gave him free rein. Once or twice he sent us back something and it was too busy. But unlike the people that I spoke about earlier on, if you asked him to change it or soften it or give it a little bit of space, he knew exactly what you meant. And, you know, he got the feeling and the vibe of the song, and you know, he didn't tone it down so he'd be bored to tears. Like, he never played it straight. He'd kind of work with you on that, but that didn't happen too often. He would normally pick up on the vibe of the song, like A Lonesome Journey that you played a couple of minutes ago. He did that first time, so you know, most of the results were incredible.
Yeah. And again, it just, you know, gives you faith that there is guys out there. Like, I mean, I think that's probably one of the hardest things to replace in the Irish scene. Howard, would you agree? A drummer?
Drummer. Yeah, I mean, it's the worst possible position to be in, looking for a drummer, because not only is there a shortage of drummers, there's a shortage of good drummers.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely, yeah, no,
it's a fucking vital part of any band.
Yeah, it's that was a big loss. I found changing guitarists easier. You know,
Yeah.
there'd be a bit of pain showing them, you know, what effects and how we use it and things like that. But drums, because they're, you know, the drummer that played on the first few records, Andy, like he was rock solid, absolutely rock solid, timing impeccable, you know, things like that. So, you know, and you know, he had a good relationship with Cathal in terms of music and locking in together. They, you know, they definitely gelled. So tough to replace all those things. You know, there's certainly drummers out there that can play, but you know, can they slot into a band and feel the vibe? And
that was the issue, I think, with at least one of the drummers that we tried out afterwards. Is they listened to what Andy had done, and then they tried to prove that they can do better.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that's not what we're after. You know, it's you don't have to play exactly what he played, but there was a vibe there that should be adhered to. You know, and it's yeah.
Yeah, I think you know the first 4 count in with a drummer whether it's going to work or not, don't you?
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to figure it out.
If he's doing rolls on the rim of the snare, it's good night.
You definitely can't bluff drumming. There's fucking no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And
both of you then, are you both multi-instrumentalists? Can he? No.
I'd say we're both proficient on our instrument of choice, and then on everything else that we turn our hands to, we're hacks.
That's not too bad either. You're your own worst critics that way, anyway. But
this is it. We played. We the two of us shared the keys on this album. You know, but I wouldn't say that either of us are keyboard players. You know, we just
we
were able to do enough.
How far did you bring it actually in some of the songs? Like, did you often play around with bringing in brass, as in or maybe a saxophone or an orchestra? Is there any of those songs that could have done with that, maybe on reflection?
No, not for me anyway.
No, not for me. Not for me. No. So you had me up until you said sax.
The reason I brought sax up is, you know, there's a band called Corrosive that just brought in a saxophone, and that was through Kieran Culhan, who's in Sherborne with
Sherborne,
and that was on my brain the whole time. So fuck it, a saxophone with Kieran, just associated.
I'm trying to think of a sax on a metal album that I enjoyed. I can't think.
It's a bit of a stretch, all right. Fuck it.
I have one for you.
Go on.
Yeah.
Promised Land.
Promised Land.
Queensryche.
Queensryche.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good man.
Jeff plays some saxophone.
That's right. He does, and it's phenomenal.
Title track. It's amazing.
Good man, Cathal. I knew you'd step up to the mark at some stage.
That's my job done.
Crack open another beer and we'll come back to you in 10 minutes. But again, like, I'd imagine if you had the budget just to include maybe a string
quartet or something like that, something tasteful. Yeah, I think it could work, but I wouldn't put it in for the sake of it. You know.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I think of that type of sound myself, but then I end up kind of just layering up the guitars. I can't move away from that. Like there's tracks on the album that have 4 or 5 guitars on it. You know, there's 4 different or 5 different lines running. So I tend to go for that rather than, you know, incorporate extra musicians or extra types of instrument into it.
I always think of, like, when you hear, say, a band like Celtic Frost, you know, and you see him live, and then you think of the orchestras that he's put in. Some of it, like, really suits the songs, you know, especially Into the Pandemonium and to the Megaterra and stuff like that. Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
He actually did.
Yeah, if it's done right, it can be really cool.
Yeah, it's hard enough to get a drummer, Rich. You never mind a fucking 4-piece quartet.
Well, I do know a good saxophonist.
But look, give us his number. We might ring him yet.
What about tour plans for this year, lads? Did you commit to anything before this shitfest hit us, or were you kind of just happy enough to just produce it in studios and kind of not commit to anything that way?
Yeah, it's again. I'd agree with what Cathal said about Wreck at the Hespers earlier. I'd never say never, but I think our touring days could be behind us. You know, if there was an offer made, we'd have a look at it. But you know, I think we've decided that this is it. We'll record studio albums.
Okay.
And just put them out.
That's to a lot of people's losses, though, lads. I mean, that Celestial Horizons is an album that would be fabulous live.
I'd love to do it, but you know, again, it's finding the musicians that would play with you. It's doing it right. The reality is, we'd probably have to pay for certain musicians to perhaps join us on stage and to rehearse and things like that. And you know, the reality is, we do have commitments now, so there's only so much we can do, and we're after sinking a lot financially into this record. So I don't know. It's maybe something that we might revisit again in the future. We'll see.
It must be something that just itches away, you know, just go play live kind of thing. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine such a big part of being in a band, and such a big part of everything that happens, and it's such a big part of the networking, the people you meet, and so on. Playing live gigs is as hard as it is, and as difficult it is to prioritize. It's always there, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's always just
I do miss it. You know, I don't know how Cathal feels about it. Like, I mean, Cahill's done some gigs. You know, doing some of his drone projects.
In a cave.
He's done Werju and
in a cave.
So you know, I don't know. Would it be fair to say that? Would it be fair to say that you're satisfied with your outlets there?
Yeah, even that. Like, every time I play, I'll say I'm going to say no the next time, and then some time goes by, and you say yes, and then you go. I think my issue is. Like, even the time we did 3 gigs in a row with Anathema, you're like taking 3 days out of your life, traveling length and breadth of the country. Then you get to the venue, and the headline band is sound checking. So you're just sitting there waiting to do your sound check. You can't go out and see the city because you don't know what time you're going to be called on stage. And so you just spend like 3 days sitting around just to get to play for like half an hour each night, you know? So it's, yeah,
when you say it like that, it's a form of madness, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, yeah.
It's addictive. It is addictive.
I can see why there's so many alcoholics and drug addicts in bands, you know. It's
a lot of time spent waiting to do something, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But like I think as well, Cathal, like most times the reality is we were a support act. We were supporting a touring act, you know. There is an awful lot of bollocks you have to put up with. There really is, you know. And then when you turn to kind of, you know, putting on your own gig, a headlining gig, there's an awful lot of bollocks that goes with that too. You know? Like, it's hard to find sound lads. Like, it's hard to find lads that you can trust. It's, you know, they are there, and you know, we met loads of cool bands over the years, but like, for every cool band you meet, there's a band with politics, or
and it just takes that one band and that one guy out of that one band to really fucking get in your head for months after a gig.
Absolutely,
Yeah, Howard, man, you could tell stories.
My favorite are the guys who have a half-hour set, start 20 minutes late, but still play a half hour. Every other band, you know, it's getting like fucking 2:00 in the morning when the last band is playing, and everyone's gone home. Yeah.
That's it, man.
Or what about the bands that swear blind that they have their own equipment and then show up on the night with no head, ask you in front of everybody and make you look like the arsehole? You know, what about those guys?
There's a lot of scars there, lads. There's a lot of scars. Tell him, come on, Howard. Argue back, man. Stand up for it.
This is the problem with it. I can't disagree one bit. But having said that, you know, I mean, you learn to network with the people that you know are going to be,
of course,
with, and you know, with Partholon in particular. I mean, we play maybe 4 or 5 gigs a year, and we hope big part of that is going abroad. But we would only do that because there's no point in just jumping on every bill here, there, and everywhere. We really do try to make it a one-off type thing, so that it's worth our while and it's worth the investment that we put into it. But having said that, with the other band, the Magdalena, I mean, we're playing every up until the lockdown, we were playing every weekend, twice a weekend, 3 times a weekend. We were starting to get a good bit of money for it. It's the first time in 10, 15 years I've been paid well for a gig, you know. So when you have that sort of freedom to do it, it works out really well. We just do one-off shows where it's just the Magna Bina and that's it. Maybe every now and again we'll ask someone to come along and play with us, but it's small venues, but it's so much more enjoyable not having to deal with the opening band trying to figure out their fucking hat, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned getting paid there, Howard, because like that would be another reason for me. Like even when we were doing well, you know, you seem to be hemorrhaging money, you know, transferring the gear, you know, like again, if you're a support band, you have to bring the entire back line, you have to hire a van, you know, that's all fine and that's great when you're younger and you have tons of energy for it. But, you know, it's something that over the years, you know, over 10 years or whatever, it does start to
grind you down
a little bit,
and it ends friendships, you know, and it fucking does this and that,
time,
you know.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's been many nights where... No, this is it. There's been many a night where you've been promised, you know, Fred Zeppelins will be absolutely rammed, and you get there and there's 2 people and a dog, you know.
You know,
like you get great stories of it.
Yeah, that's the other side of it, you know. There's always something to talk about.
That's it. The characters you meet, you know, it's.
But you know, think about going back into it again, lads. Get in touch and we'll figure something out. We'll do something right. I think
again, never say never, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean,
do you know any good drummers?
Yeah,
I do, and I know one in particular that I'm thinking of straight away would be perfect.
There you go. We gladly welcome you with open arms down Cork, and
good stuff. Yeah,
we guarantee there'll be people there anyway.
There was always people in Cork. Now there's always people in Cork for the record. Always.
Yeah, that's cool. And so again, this the Celestial Horizons album, you put a lot of love into it. Was there tracks there that were left behind that could possibly be?
Yeah, I think there's 5 or 6. Don't want to speak out of turn now, but I don't know if we'll use them or not. Like we had an idea earlier on in the year that we might release a tape and put out the demos from the entire record on it, and you know that would be the 8 songs that made the record.
Okay.
There could also be another 5 or 6 there, so we might revisit that in that way. But we've already pushed on and started writing music for the next record.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. And have you got, I know Cathal has a good few side projects. We can get to them in a minute. What about you, Greg? Have you anything going on the side as well?
Yeah, I was helping the guys out in Grave Sermon last year. They were supposed to do a couple of gigs this year, but that's been kicked to touch now, obviously with COVID. So I have gotten a live outlet with those guys. They have some of the guys out of Asect and who else now? Primal Dawn, the Bad Incarnate, some of the guys out of all those bands. So it's old school death metal. Yeah. It's as far away from Parhelia as you can get. But that's a bit of fun, just getting out and knocking those things out. But I don't know what's going to happen with it now. You know, as I said, there was a few gigs lined up for August and September that I was supposed to do with them, but that's all being pushed back now.
Cathal, we're ready. We've got a list. Go for it.
You have a list?
Come on, how many side projects? And you're releasing a book as well, aren't you? Plug?
I already did, yeah. I already did, yeah.
What's that? How can people find that? And what's it about?
It's basically interviews with a bunch of different bands, an interview with an American poet. It's about the creative process, life, art, whatever. I think if you Google it, you might see it. It got ordered from me. Maybe you can put a link in the show notes.
Yeah,
there.
of
That's
course
what these
I can.
cool podcast people say, isn't it? Yeah.
What's the title of it?
It's called Existential.
Okay.
Spelled EXISTENTIELL.
Right.
I think that's it. Yeah.
And side projects then?
Yeah, lots of stuff. Depends on the day of the week. Depends on my humor, you know. Could be drone, could be black metal, could be doom, you know. It's
you are on a record label with the Drone, is that right? Or are you flirting with them?
I've done, there's yeah, lots of small labels have released sort of stuff over the years. You know, it's usually just kind of a one-off. Someone will be interested in releasing a tape or something, and they get in touch. So there's not one specific label, say, but yeah, I've done lots of different things.
Again, how can people find it? Would it be through your own name or?
Yeah, I think there's a Bandcamp page there with through my own name. You can find most of that stuff.
Yeah, I like you didn't name drop Cliff Martinez as well. I'm a big fan of him.
Oh yeah, love Cliff. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. So lads, that's it. An absolute pleasure talking to you, and I hope.
Yeah, it's been great crack, man.
Yeah.
Cheers, Richie.
I hope you can get to.
Cheers, Howard. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah.
Likewise,
Yeah.
and look, hopefully
Nice
we'll try and figure out a show or something. I'll try and tempt you down.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, Howard is the man. If anyone can do it, Howard can. Sounds like a political campaign there, man.
Absolutely. Get the t-shirts done.
Get Parhelia down in Cork.
But yeah, it's been a great find. I was aware of the name, but not in this terms of listening to you and seeing what you're about and so on. So it's great to see another band, a band like yourselves, at it for so long and having that resolve to keep going through the tough times, to come out the end of it, still making music and looking forward to making more. You know,
Yeah.
so it's great.
Yeah, 7-year
Thanks
absence.
so much, Howard. Appreciate it, and yeah, hopefully it won't be that long until the next one. Now, hopefully.
No, hopefully not. And as is again, plug for the new album Celestial Horizons. You can get it through your Bandcamp page, correct?
Yeah, it's on Spotify and on the website.
And
you'll find us easy enough.
have you got merch as well on your Bandcamp page? Do you do line t-shirts and stuff, or is it just predominantly vinyl,
no,
CDs?
Not this time. Just the vinyl and CDs. We'll see how this goes. It's going pretty well now at the moment, so we'll have a look at things. I think, you know, if we had the option, we'd probably rather do the tape than a t-shirt. So we might look at that again before the end of the year.
Who's got tape players anymore, man? I know I do. But
I do. Yeah,
man,
yeah.
old cars, you know.
Me too.
there's only a few of us. It's very much a death metal type thing, actually, isn't it? More so than anything else.
Black metal.
Black metal. Sorry, yeah. But yeah, it's a fun extravagance to have.
We have a tape label here in Corkshire with Dahi.
That's right.
Dahi, yeah.
Dahi does limited runs, and he's done some interesting stuff. Dungeon synth and a lot of black metal. Gallagher on it, I think.
That's right. Yeah, I was checking out a lot of that stuff on Instagram last night. Somebody put up a picture of a bunch of tapes, and then it just led me down, a wormhole or a vortex or something, just checking out all these bands. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's got good quality.
Yeah,
that's a nice plug as well, lads. Greg and Cathal, thanks a million for coming on the show again.
Richie.
For Parhelia and Howard, much appreciated as always. You're more than welcome anytime, Howard.
Anytime, Richie.
Okay, you've been listening to the Metal Cell, and thanks everybody, and especially the lads from the show.